Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Barry Watts with WealthCare has the strategies you need to plan for a successful retirement. Whether you're planning for retirement, saving to live out your dreams, or looking to grow your wealth, Barry has resources to guide you every step of the way. Barry and the team at WealthCare develop customized plans to help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome to Watts on Wealth with Barry Watts.
It sure is tempting to hope for the best case scenario in our retirement. The reality of it is, though, there are several major risks that could send your retirement into a tailspin. On our show, we'll help you identify some of those risks and come up with a strategy for you and your family that might help protect your family and your future. Welcome into Watts on Wealth, the TV show, and with Barry Watts, I'm your host, Ralph Hipp. And Barry Watts is joining me. Barry, the founder and CEO of the WealthCare Corporation right here in Springfield, Missouri. Barry, we have a great time on our radio show every weekend, and it's good to get together. We put on our dress-up suits under the lights and do our TV show. It's good to see you, bud.
Good to be with you to do TV as well, Ralph. I like both of them. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and we're going to learn a lot in our next half hour here. Our radio shows are an hour, and our TV show a half hour. We're going to learn a lot in the hour and a half here with us.
I'll do my best.
Wherever it is. That's right. Barry, this is a tough topic, but important to have a reality check on this, and basically, things don't always go as we planned in retirement, do they?
Well, when do things ever go as they had been planned, Ralph?
Right.
There's always a snafu in practically anything we do, and retirement's no different. But because we've helped hundreds of families to retire confidently on time and live some of their best years in retirement, we kind of know what the surprise issues are likely to arise, and we've developed strategies to help our clients deal with them. Now, we always hope for the best, but we always plan for the worst. And we're going to do that today as we talk about three risks that I want to focus on in particular. Catastrophic illness or emergencies that come up on you medically, loss of a spouse, and then the most fun one, living a long and healthy life.
That last one on your three-part list there, living a long and healthy life, it doesn't sound like much of a risk to me at all. We always talk on the radio show about having our money last if we live to be 100. But let's talk about that first risk of our longevity of life, and hope you can clear that up for us.
Well, believe it or not, Ralph, longevity is a big retirement risk, living a healthy life for too long. And if you don't use proper strategies to prepare for that, then you may have some trouble. Here's what I mean and why it's really considered a risk. Living a long life is a good thing to be sure, but it comes with a very steep price tag, and it gets more expensive every year. You've got more years of paying bills and more years of buying groceries, more years of paying taxes. And then, of course, you've got to keep in mind inflation. The longer you live, the more expensive everything becomes.
Not likely in 20 to 30 years, if our retirement lasts that long, the prices will go down.
I don't expect to see that. I think the prices we have today are here to stay.
How to help people all around the Ozarks, Barry, make sure they don't run out of money before they run out of life if they end up living a long time in their retirement?
Well, Ralph, we've surveyed a few thousand people who come through our retirement classes that we teach. And unquestionably, the number one fear is running out of money in retirement. And so to help people avoid that, we have a process. It begins by knowing how much money you need in retirement. We call that your sitting on the porch number.
Right.
Now, I understand that you may not want to retire and sit on the porch, and instead you want to have an active lifestyle. But the point is, when you aren't working anymore, so you don't have a regular paycheck coming in, how much money will you need deposited into your bank account each month to pay all of your bills? There's some things you're going to want to include on this list. It's not just money for bread and milk and electricity and gasoline and insurance, but don't forget lawn maintenance and dental care and new tires on the car and new hearing aids and maybe even a new car itself. There's the cost of your Medicare supplement that people don't think about. All of those things need to be accounted for in your sitting on the porch number. Once we know your number, we can show you how much you'll need to draw from your investments in addition to your Social Security and pensions. And then we can demonstrate how long your money will last and whether or not you'll run out of money in your lifetime. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, we've got some solutions that can help with that as well.
Now, Barry, does it start with our sitting on the porch money to do an income analysis in our 20 to 30 years of planned retirement?
Well, we have to know what your income is going to be, not just when you retire, but for every year of retirement. So we actually do an income plan that plays out every year of retirement. At 65, you can know what your income will look like at 95. at least according to the data that we've got and the best planning that we can do. And we factor in inflation, so we know how much it's going to cost you to live then, and generally it's a lot more than you expect.
Great insights, Barry. Thanks for all your wisdom, your wit, and expertise there. The Sage of Springfield, we call him.
Well, there you go.
Coming up, Barry helps you tackle some of the biggest risks to your retirement. Later on in our Steps to Retirement Confidence with Barry Watts, strategies helping you put up some guardrails to keep your retirement from toppling over the edge. As Watts on Wealth, our TV show will continue right after these messages.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. Our current tax rates are set to expire in just a few short years. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
I'm back here with J. Barry Watts, our main retirement designer of Springfield's WealthCare Corporation. And on the show, Barry's helping us tackle some of those major risks of retirement. Barry, some of the risks are pretty difficult to discuss. It's not happy-go-lucky on this. Some important things we need to really talk through. Things like a member of your family suffering a catastrophic illness, or we have a medical emergency. Those are definitely on your list of major retirement risks. And can you tell us about some of the ways to navigate around some of those scenarios?
Well, big issues, Ralph. In fact, more than 500,000 Americans file for bankruptcy each year just due to medical bills. So a healthcare emergency or catastrophic illness of any type, or even an accident, can knock you off your feet, both physically but also financially. So you need to have a plan for healthcare costs, and many people don't. And even if they have it, they don't understand their coverage options. For example, Medicare. That confuses a lot of people in retirement. So you need to understand your options for long-term care coverage, for your Medicare coverage. And speaking of long-term care, it's interesting to note that 70% of adults, that's 7 out of 10 people, age 65 and older, are going to need some type of long-term care at some point during their retirement years. So this is something we need to take care of.
And it's estimated to be at least $300,000 of long-term health care bills. Is that a
For the
solid
average
estimate?
family, they should plan on spending $300,000 on health care in their retirement. That's correct.
So do you have that? Do you have that ready to go? Another major risk on our list today is the loss of a spouse. Losing your husband or wife can be devastating, Barry, emotionally. There's also the physical aspect of it and the financial aspect of it. So how do you help us deal with that financially, the loss of a spouse?
Well, again, if you're married, the chances that both of you will pass away at the same time are very slim. And so you need to think about this from both angles. If you were to pass away first, Ralph, you don't want to leave your family scrambling to figure out what to do. So you need to plan now if that's the case. Now, if you instead are the survivor, well, you don't want to be making big financial decisions in the midst of your grieving. So again, the solution is plan now. Make sure that your spouse and everyone knows where all the money is, where all the accounts are, and how to access everything. Think about your passwords in that particular situation. The loss of a spouse means that your income will likely be reduced. At the very least, you're going to lose your spouse's Social Security. But the bills aren't going to be cut in half. They're probably going to be about the same. And so when you lose your spouse, you also have a tax issue because you go from married filing jointly to being a single filer on your taxes. And single people more quickly fall into a higher tax bracket than married people, even if they have the same income level. Here's an example. If you're married and you make $90,000, you fall into the 12% tax bracket. But if you're single, you'd be in the 22% tax bracket. So higher taxes after the loss of spouse are a really, really big issue.
Barry, I'd like to ask a question about, is it a typical situation for the husband to be in charge of working with you on the financial planning, the big picture, the long-range picture, and the wives are really good with the budgets and handling the checkbook and making sure either online or getting the checks in the mail that the bills are paid on time. Can you talk about the role of a husband and wife in dealing with money in their financial and family situation? And do you always meet with couples? You don't just meet with the husband or just meet with the wife, do you?
Well, no, if you're married, what I tell people is if you're married, you have to bring your spouse if you're going to see me, unless you're preparing to go through divorce. And
Right.
people, so if I'm speaking to a crowd and I say that, people always chuckle. But no, we definitely want to talk to both parties because the information we're communicating applies to both of them, and one of them is most likely going to be the survivor. And so it's important that everybody knows the money, everybody knows where it is, everybody recognizes the voice and the language and the planning process and knows what it looks like. Now, you asked the question, does the husband more often take the lead or the wife more often take the lead? Well, it might, when you consider the population I deal with and the age demographic, which is really baby boomers, maybe the husband is in charge a little more often, let's call it 60% of the time. Mm-hmm. But when I see younger people, it's definitely a split responsibility between the two of them. And even with some of my boomers, some of the times the husband sits back and says, whatever the wife says will be the answer. So it's hard to really sort that out. When it comes to keeping the books, the checkbook and so forth, I would say the wife does that a little more often. And that's the way Kelly and I do it at home, in fact.
Yeah, a little more hands-on and, as we call it, the day-to-day operation of the firm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the wife would handle that. But that's very interesting with Gen Xers or baby boomers. You're seeing definitely 50-50. The husband and the wife are equal partners in pulling the weight of that load of planning their financial future.
And the younger people get, the more often you see the wife actually earning a bigger income than the husband. That happens some with baby boomers, but not nearly as often. So I think the future is going to be a very split responsibility.
And by the way, my wife makes more than me, and I do not have a problem with that. I hope you, as a husband and wife, you don't have any problem with that either, that the wife makes more.
I grew up with farmers, and what they used to say about farmers is the surest way to be financially successful on the farm is to have a wife who's a school teacher or a nurse with a good paycheck.
Absolutely, absolutely. Barry, thanks for all your great answers. And we have some mailed-in questions, which I don't know if they stick a stamp on it and mail it to Barry, but it's mostly email. Some great mailed-in questions for Barry Watts later. Straight ahead on our show, though, Barry Watts will help you put up those guardrails, keeping your retirement from toppling over the edge. That is next in Barry's chat about steps to retirement confidence, which he's so famous for. And as I mentioned, later on, Barry will answer along with me. I'll ask the question, he'll answer it. Some of your more pressing retirement questions. So don't go away. You're watching Watts on Wealth, the TV show, and we'll be right back.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
It's Watts on Wealth, the TV show. In our Steps to Retirement Confidence now, Barry helps you put up some guardrails to help keep your retirement from toppling over the edge. Barry?
Have you ever driven across a low water bridge? We've got a lot of them here in the rural Ozarks. They're just a slab of concrete with no side rails. You could even drive off the edge if you weren't very careful. But because we grew up with them, we don't think anything about that, and we breeze across them full speed. But imagine if you had that same type of bridge construction crossing the Chesapeake Bay or the Mississippi River. I bet you'd be a lot more cautious driving without guardrails when the danger of making a mistake is so costly. How much of a mistake can you afford to make with your retirement plan? How often when you do something for the first time, do you do it well? Crossing a treacherous body of water on a tall bridge without any guardrails sounds a lot like retirement to me. First, you've probably never retired before, so you aren't as familiar with navigating that bridge. And secondly, one mistake and you're off the edge to plunge into the cold, dark water below. At WealthCare, we specialize in putting guardrails on retirement bridges. Specifically, we put up 3 different kinds of guardrails to help our clients stay on the main road and not plunge into the retirement abyss below. The first of those guardrails is called Principal Protection and Optimization. We believe every retiree should have a portion of their assets fully protected from a negative stock market, so when those rough days, months, and years in the market can occur, they can rest confidently knowing that some of their assets were protected, tighter than the gold in Fort Knox. They don't have to worry about losing to a stock market crash. Personally, I've reached the age where I don't like roller coasters very much, so you won't find me riding the soaring and plunging Outlaw Run or Powder Keg down at Silver Dollar City. But someday when Kelly and I have grandbabies, I'll get on the merry-go-round and we'll ride those ponies up and down ever so gently. The difference between a roller coaster ride and a merry-go-round perfectly illustrates volatility. And for most retirees, a lot less soaring and plunging is in order when they've traded their paycheck for a Social Security check or a pension. We specialize in helping those people stay invested in a buffered sort of way in order to experience stock market returns that are more steady and less volatile. The second guardrail we then erect for clients is tax efficiency. There are very simple and straightforward things you can do to reduce your lifetime income taxes by hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, we can show you how to pay taxes for as little as 50 cents on the dollar. Meaning instead of sending $100,000 to the IRS, maybe you only have to spend $50,000 instead. And the final guardrail then is healthcare. Most people know that long-term care insurance is too expensive if you can even get it. And if you don't use it, you lose it. But new innovations in private insured accounts provide our clients with tax-free chronic illness and long-term care coverage when they need it. And if they wind up never needing the money, all that money is refunded to their family free of income taxes. You don't have to take unnecessary retirement risks, unprotected, without guardrails. Call the WealthCare Corporation today, and we'll install guardrails so you never have to worry about your retirement going over the edge. Back to you, Ralph.
Thank you very much, Barry. You have a question about retirement? Well, don't go anywhere on our show. Barry will have the answers coming up in our Q&A segment. What's on Wealth, the TV show, will continue right after these messages.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work toward your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
Ralph Hipp here, along with J. Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. You no doubt have questions about your retirement. The good news is, right now, Barry is ready to answer those. Barry, you ready for our first question?
I'm ready, Ralph. Hit me.
All right. We often do this on our radio show, but on the TV side, this is from Rita in Nixa. Rita tells us, we've been retired for about 5 years. We're expecting our first grandchild soon. What are some of the tips for starting a college savings fund? And is it the 529 a good idea?
Well, I've got to tell you, Rita, many people are going to suggest a 529 savings plan because it gives you a tax-free way to accumulate money for your grandkids. Now, I'm not personally a fan of those types of accounts, Ralph, and that's what I'd want Rita to understand. Though I do have wise and loving grandparents for clients who have used them successfully for their grandkids, here's what I don't like about them so much. The money has to be spent on college or higher education. And if you have one of those hardworking grandkids that decides to become a plumber or an electrician instead of going to college, then the money in that plan may have to be taxed, and there might even be a 10% penalty on it. So whenever it's possible, I prefer to use private insured retirement advantage accounts, we call them PIRAs, as a college savings vehicle. And if your grandkid uses it for college, Ralph, then it's good. But if they don't, there's no tax due, and they can still spend it however they like.
All right. Now, here's our next one. This is from Peter right here in Springfield. And Peter writes into you, Barry, I'm in my late 50s and I have, get this, more than $500,000 saved for retirement. I'm also expecting an inheritance of at least $500,000 more. I'd love to retire early. I feel like I'm in good shape. How can I find out for sure? He's off to a great start.
Well, he is off to a good start. Well, thanks for the question, Peter. And Ralph, I noticed that Peter said, I feel like I'm in good shape. Feelings are an emotion. That's really good for romance, but not so much for retirement. You want facts in retirement. And the only way I know for you to get those facts is to have a retirement income assessment prepared for you. It's step one in our 6 steps to retirement confidence process. It'll show you precisely whether or not you have enough money to retire and whether you need to wait a few years instead and how much money you can spend in retirement. So, Peter, if you'll call my office, we will get you set up with a retirement income assessment that'll tell you exactly what you can afford to do and when you can afford to retire.
So you just call that number right here on your screen and set up that appointment with Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Okay, let's get to a question from Samuel in wonderful Mount Vernon, Missouri. And he's asking, do you work with very small business owners? I mean, not that they're very small. Do you work with very many small business owners? And he says, I'm thinking of retiring from my small business ownership in the next few years, trying to make sure I have a good exit plan in place when the time is right for that. So, Barry, we have discussed small business owners on our radio show. It's kind of a different strategy for them. How can you help them out?
Well, Ralph, if Samuel were sitting here with us, what I would say to him is that, yes, we do work with small business owners, but typically most of them don't have an exit plan. They have a quitting wish, and that means they'd like to quit, maybe even this coming Friday. And so our team at WealthCare helps small business owners to design their exit strategies so that they get the maximum number of dollars from the sale of their business. In some cases, they can even get that money tax-free. And then we show them how to use those dollars to turn them into tax-free income in retirement. So I would say, Samuel, if you'll call us today, we can help you.
So Barry, for a small business owner, of course, he's the employer and kind of the employee getting the benefits of what's in his program for his employees and the sale of that business. So good luck to him. And our next one, we go to Kathy in Mountain Grove. Kathy's asking, I got a lot of mail and phone calls about Medicare. How do I figure out what kind of supplemental insurance I might need to go with that when I sign up for it?
Well, what I would suggest to Kathy is that she pick up the phone and she call Matt Dean in our office at the WealthCare Corporation. He's our dedicated Medicare specialist, and he helps people like you, Kathy, figure out how to best pay for Medicare and all things related to healthcare in the most inexpensive and flexible way possible. So it's a very complicated subject, but Matt's an expert. I'd suggest you call Matt Dean in our office. He'll help you.
All right. Tell us more about some of the team members you have there at the WealthCare Corporation, Barry. Give them a shout out.
Well, my 2 longest serving employees are Nola Peterson, who's been with me 26 years. And she worked for us only a year or so, and then she said, hey, my husband's looking for a job. Do you think he'll fit in here? And John Peterson has been really running my back office, doing all of our trading and so forth for 25 years. So those are my 2 most tenured employees. But there's about 15 people on the team working in a variety of areas of expertise. And so when you come to WealthCare, you're not hiring Barry, you're hiring a team of people to help and support you in your quest for a confident retirement.
Barry, when they call you, what is the process? What are the questions they ought to be asking you in terms of that? What's your process, including your 6 steps to retirement confidence?
Well, generally, when people call, they have a specific question and they're wanting to go right to the heart of the matter. Should I invest this way or should I invest that way? Or what are my taxes going to look like?
And you would go, wait, back up for a minute.
Yeah, we got to slow them down because I don't know. That's kind of like going into the doctor and saying, doctor, should I have a surgery or not? Well, why don't we figure out what's wrong with you first? And so we like to sit down and have a conversation, just get to know the people,
know you.
know their heart, know what it is they want to accomplish. We'll get around to financial questions. In fact, I had somebody in my office very recently who she brought her boyfriend with her. And the boyfriend was really pushy, and he wanted to kind of scold me because I hadn't gotten to the financial questions yet. And honestly, I had to fold up my books and dismiss them from our meeting because he was pushing me to go somewhere that we weren't ready to go yet. I wanted to know more about her and what she wanted to accomplish in retirement. We'll then get to the financial questions and get to some solutions. But we can't prescribe financial medicine if we don't first know our patient and know what financial illness they may have.
Right. So get your questions ready for Barry. And in terms of the introductory visit, what do you think is the first question they ought to ask to even get started with you, Barry?
Well, the first question I always ask them is, what's the most unique thing about you to help me know who you are?
Oh, great.
And people are always kind of stunned by that because they haven't thought about themselves in unique terms. But it's really good. And sometimes people come up with some interesting things that'll be helpful for me to know their personalities and what they're trying to accomplish. We've got a process that takes them through everything that they need to know. And so if they'll just come along and go through that process, that will really work best for them. I always tell people, leave your checkbook at home. We're not going to be writing checks on your first visit. It's just a visit for us to get acquainted and know each other better.
Barry, thanks for that answer, all your answers, and we appreciate your questions that you were sending in to us. Appreciate all that. Thanks for your expertise, Barry. Well, if you want to learn some ways to generate your lifetime income in retirement, potentially reducing that big tax bill from Washington and Jeff City, and maintain your retirement lifestyle the way you envision it, reach out now. Barry Watts and the team at the WealthCare Corporation, they are ready to help you start building that retirement plan designed to help you not only exist, but really flourish in retirement. So for Barry and the whole team at the WealthCare Corporation right here in Springfield, this is Ralph Hipp, and we look forward to seeing you the next time on Watts on Wealth, the TV show.